1914. Thousands of Ottoman soldiers marched towards Sarikamish, believing they were about to destroy the Russian army. But before they reached the battlefield, before many of them fired a single shot, before the decisive battle had even begun, winter had already begun killing them. Not with bullets, not with artillery, not with machine guns, but with snow, with ice, with mountains, with temperatures so low that the human body simply stopped fighting. Every step forward became slower. Every night became longer. Every breath hurt. Entire companies disappeared beneath blinding blizzards without ever seeing the enemy. By the time survivors reached the outskirts of Sarikamish, many no longer had the strength to hold their rifles. They were no longer fighting Russia. They were fighting nature itself. This is the story of how winter became one of history's greatest generals, and how the Caucasus Mountains destroyed an army before the battle had even begun. December 1914. Only a few months after the Ottoman Empire entered the First World War, one man believed he could change the course of the conflict with a single bold offensive. His name was Enver Pasha, Minister of War, hero to many, visionary to some, reckless to others. His objective appeared simple: strike deep into the Caucasus, encircle the Russian Caucasus army near Sarikamish, destroy it before reinforcements could arrive. If successful, the Ottoman Empire could reclaim territories lost decades earlier, inspire Muslim populations under Russian rule, and perhaps even force Russia onto the defensive. Speed would be everything. Surprise would decide the campaign. But there was one obstacle standing between Enver's army and victory: the Caucasus Mountains. Unlike the Alps crossed by Hannibal centuries before, these mountains offered little mercy during winter. Towering peaks blocked the horizon. Narrow forest roads twisted through deep valleys. Snow covered every trail. Temperatures dropped far below freezing. Even local villagers avoided crossing the mountains during the harshest weeks of winter. Military advisors warned that such an offensive should wait until spring. Some commanders questioned whether tens of thousands of soldiers could even survive the march. Enver believed hesitation would only strengthen the Russians. The enemy expected the Ottomans to remain defensive. Instead, he would strike where no one believed an army could move. Confidence spread through the ranks. The soldiers believed they were marching toward one of the Ottoman Empire's greatest victories. They packed rifles, ammunition, food, winter uniforms, though not enough of them. Many still wore clothing designed for much warmer conditions. Few understood what truly awaited them beyond the mountains, because the Russians were not the first enemy they would face. The march began. Columns of Ottoman soldiers disappeared into the snow-covered forests of eastern Anatolia. At first, progress remained steady. The roads were narrow but passable. The men stayed optimistic. Officers urged them forward. Every kilometer, they believed, brought them closer to surprise. But as the army climbed higher, everything changed. The forests grew thinner. The winds became stronger. Snow covered the roads until paths almost disappeared. Visibility collapsed beneath waves of blowing ice. Entire columns struggled to remain together. Then came the mountains themselves. The Allahukbar Mountains rose before them like an endless frozen wall. Steep slopes forced soldiers to climb through waist-deep snow. Pack animals slipped on frozen paths. Heavy artillery lagged behind. Supply wagons became trapped beneath drifting snow. Every delay cost precious hours. Every hour allowed the temperature to fall even further. Communication between units became increasingly difficult. Messengers lost their way. Entire battalions drifted from their assigned routes. Some wandered through forests, searching for roads that no longer existed beneath the snow. The deeper they advanced, the harder retreat became. Behind them, the mountain passes slowly disappeared beneath fresh snowfall. Ahead, only more snow, more wind, more ice. Then another enemy arrived. Darkness. Winter nights came early. Temperatures plunged with terrifying speed. Fires became difficult to maintain. Many soldiers had little shelter against the freezing wind. They wrapped themselves in blankets already soaked with melting snow. Some never woke the following morning, not because they had been attacked, but because the mountains demanded a price for every step forward, and winter was only beginning. Soon, the Russian army was no longer the greatest danger. The cold was. Temperatures dropped to nearly -40 degrees Celsius. Breathing became painful. Every inhale burned the lungs. Every exhale disappeared into frozen air. The soldiers' uniforms stiffened with ice. Boots froze solid overnight. Gloves became soaked before turning rigid in the freezing wind. Fingers slowly lost feeling. Then hands, then entire arms. Men could no longer reload their rifles. Some could barely hold them. Others watched helplessly as frostbite blackened their fingers beyond saving. Hunger made everything worse. Supply columns had fallen behind in the mountains. Food became scarce. Bread froze into solid blocks. Water bottles turned to ice. Many soldiers had nothing left to eat except small frozen rations carried in their pockets. The horses suffered alongside the men. Weak from exhaustion and starvation, thousands collapsed in the snow. Without horses, artillery pieces remained stranded. Medical wagons never reached the front. The wounded received little treatment. The sick received almost none. Exhaustion spread through every unit. Some soldiers sat down beside the trail, intending to rest for only a few minutes. They never stood again. Snow slowly covered their bodies during the night. By morning, they looked like part of the mountain itself. No battle had taken place. No great charge. No artillery barrage. Only silence. Only wind. Only snow. The Caucasus Mountains were destroying an army without firing a single shot. By late December, the offensive had begun to collapse. Not because the Russians had broken the Ottoman lines, because the mountains already had. Entire regiments became separated by snowstorms. Officers searched desperately for units that had vanished into the blizzard. Orders never arrived. Messengers froze before reaching their destination. Communication disappeared. Some divisions marched in the wrong direction for days. Others wandered through forests, believing they were approaching Sarikamish, only to find themselves even farther from the objective. The carefully planned encirclement no longer existed. Instead, small groups of exhausted soldiers struggled simply to stay alive. Many had not eaten properly for days. Many had not slept. Some no longer knew where they were. Then the Russians struck. Unlike the exhausted Ottoman soldiers, Russian defenders occupied prepared positions around Sarikamish. They were supplied, organized, and waiting. Those Ottoman units that finally reached the battlefield arrived in fragments rather than as one coordinated army. Thousands never arrived at all. Some froze inside mountain passes, others disappeared beneath the snow. Many collapsed during the retreat before ever seeing the enemy. The offensive that had promised one of the Ottoman Empire's greatest victories had become a desperate fight for survival. Nature had shattered the army long before the battle reached its climax. The Sarikamish Campaign ended in disaster. Historians still debate the exact number of casualties, but one truth has never been questioned. The Ottoman Third Army suffered catastrophic losses. Many soldiers died in combat. Far more never reached the battlefield in fighting condition. They died from freezing temperatures, starvation, exhaustion, disease, and the impossible conditions of the Caucasus winter. Entire formations simply disappeared. The offensive had depended on speed. Instead, snow slowed every movement. The campaign had depended on surprise. Instead, winter announced every delay. The plan depended on coordination. Instead, the mountains isolated every column. By the time the survivors withdrew, the campaign was already lost. Not because the soldiers lacked courage, not because they refused to fight, but because no army can defeat an enemy it cannot shoot. Winter had accomplished what even a powerful defending army could never have achieved alone. It had destroyed an invasion before victory was ever possible. History remembers Sarikamish as one of the Ottoman Empire's greatest military disasters. It remembers the commanders, the decisions, the failed offensive, but the mountains remember something else. They remember thousands of footsteps disappearing beneath fresh snow. The snow carried no flag. The wind wore no uniform. The mountains belonged to no empire. Winter did not fight for Russia. It simply punished every army that believed determination alone could conquer nature. The Ottoman soldiers marched into the Caucasus, believing victory was only days away. Instead, they entered one of history's deadliest frozen battlefields. The snow never fired a rifle. The wind never commanded an army. The mountains never declared war. Yet together, they became one of the most powerful military forces ever faced. Because sometimes, the greatest victories in history are won without a battle. And sometimes, The strongest army is neither human nor empire. It is nature itself,